Good evening from beautiful 8 Mile Rock here in Grand Bahama. The Inland Revenue Department is here to serve you. As a part of our DIR Comes to You campaign and our Family Island tour, we're here in 8 Mile Rock for our annual town hall meeting. Tonight, we're going to talk to you about business license, we're going to talk to you about VAT, we're going to talk to you about real property tax, and any other inland revenue matters that you may have. We have our experts here in the persons of Charlene Barton, Orchid Bain, and Bria Brown, who will speak to those subjects respectively. We'd like to acknowledge Ms. Miriam Fernando, who's in the crowd here, who is the lead and manager at our Grand Bahama office, and her team. And without further ado, we're just going to get right into it. We know we started late, we apologize for that. And we're just going to get straight into our presentations. So coming up first, we have Ms. Charlene Barton, who is a registration supervisor and soon to be manager in that department, who's going to take us through the business license renewal process. Oh, we have a quick question before we begin. Yes, ma'am. Oh, we need to start with a prayer. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to lead us in prayer? So let's bow our heads very quick and we'll start off with a prayer. The Heavenly Father, we'd like to thank you for having us here today, blessing us with your sprinkles of rain and sunshine as all day. We'd like to thank you for allowing these persons to be here today to impart us with knowledge and wisdom, and we pray that we're able to receive it with full understanding and compassion. We thank you for everything, and we pray that our journey back homes are safe. In precious name we pray, amen. That's right. All right, so let's turn it over to Ms. Charlene Barton, who will talk us through the business license renewal process.
Good evening. I am Charlene Barton at the Nassau Office Department of Inland Revenue, Registration Supervisor. My task tonight is just going to walk you through the process of applying for a renewal. I'm just going to give you some key dates. All licenses expires on December 31st. All licenses that carried on the business in a year should renew before January 31st. After January 31st, there will be a late filing fee that will apply to all accounts. This is our revised turnover sheet. So anywhere your turnover indicates anywhere from 0 to 100,000, you're exempted. 100,000 to 500,000, you're paying at a 0.5% rate. 500,000 to 5 million, you're paying at a 0.75. Over 5 million, you're taxed at 1.25. Temporary licenses are based on the amount of the contract, which will be at 1.5%, and occasionals are $25. All right, I'm just gonna jump right in. One of the requirements for our renewals this time is anything over from 250,000, we now require you to give us a certification from an accountant. If you're over 5 million, you now are asked to do a financial audit. All right, we're gonna just jump right in. Once you log onto your online tax administration, you will go to the Returns tab. Once you get to the Returns tab, you're going to select your tax type, which will be annual actual. The year will be 24, and then you're going to hit Start the Return. Once you get your Start the Return, you're going to click Save and Continue. We're going to go over the license overview. You're going to hit Save and Continue again. Once you get to step 3, you're going to click View Details. How much ever licenses you have, it will appear in this screen here in the bracket. If you have only one license, but you're seeing multiple, you are asked to remove the duplicates. Once you remove the duplicates, you go into your only license that's left. You click Change. Once you get to Change, the only line you're going to fill out in this part of the screen is the actual turnover. That's the only line that has a red asterisk. You would then indicate what your business made for that year. You would hit Save. You would then go back to the screen here again. You would hit Back. You would then confirm here again, Save and Continue. If you are over 250,000, like I indicated, you would then upload your accounting certification here or your audited documents. You would then hit Save and Continue. You will view your return that you would have submitted to us, click the declaration, and hit Submit. Now, that's only the first part. The only thing you did just now was put in your actual annual. Now, the actual annual gives you what you actually made for the previous year. So we're in 25, so you're actually confirming what you made in the year 2024. All right, once that is completed, you now have another step. We're now going to do the annual estimate. Now, the estimate is just giving a prediction and what you anticipate to make. Okay, now what is customary, as according to our act, whatever you put in the actual should also be in the estimate. All right, so we're going to go click the returns tab. Our tax type is going to be annual estimate. The year is going to be 25. And we're going to click start the return. We're going to hit save and continue for the first two screens. When we get to the third screen, we're going to hit add detail. Once you hit add detail, there's going to be a pop-up. Yes, load from previous detail. You would want to click that. This then loads your previous licenses. Be back here to the license details screen. You'll hit change. And like I indicated before in the actual, the only thing you filled out here in this screen is your estimated turnover. That's the only one that has the red asterisk. Once you have done that, you then go ahead and hit save. You hit back. You hit save and continue again. If there's any documentation need to be uploaded, this is where you would upload your documentation. You will hit save and continue, click our declaration box, and hit submit. And you have just walked through the process of actually applying for your 25 business license. Once that process is completed, there's a process time of 14 days. Once that is done, you then receive your licenses on the system as well as through your email as well. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? It's based on the contract. Most temporary licenses are only for foreigners. So if the contract is spanned for about a year, 3 years, however, we take the full value of it and charge you at 1.5%, which is to be paid upfront while the contract is going on. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Generation 9.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a notice back saying that I needed to provide probate. But we didn't do any probate.
Okay, now you said that this is generation property that's been passed down?
Yes.
And you have the affidavit that can prove that you're now the owners of it?
I didn't do the affidavit because I use I verify ownership through my initial, when I built my house. You see what I'm saying? The documentation that I used to get the permit to build my house some 40 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
that is what I used. That's what I sent in to show that the building belonged to me.
Okay, so, Maria, are we familiar with that process?
And I submitted when I submitted the application, I included all of that. I did, and I sent in all those documentation. And then it came back to say that I need the probate to say that.
So you have an existing license with the department already?
Yes.
And this is the same location you're now using again?
Yes.
All right, what did you provide the first time? You provided the same documentation the first time?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, we can fairly accept that documentation.
You can share.
Yeah,
Okay.
so you are free to resubmit.
Okay.
you can just let the office know in Freeport, Ms. Fernando, they could assist you to make sure you get that process done. All right. Any more questions? Sure, go ahead.
I submitted for my taxi, and it's still in being processed because it's indicating that there's a $10,000 fee that I have to pay.
Okay. Yeah, so doing your process, you selected a financial institution field. So that's something the persons at the back can go ahead and assist you with having that $10,000 fee removed, and then you'll get your license.
If I have an existing tin already, what's the process to add a license underneath my existing tin?
Okay, underneath your existing tin, you will go to the My Tax tab, Tax Return. Once you get to Tax Return, you're going to click the 25 estimate. Once you click that, on the right-hand side, it's going to give you some tasks. You're going to click here to amend this return. Once you click that, you just follow the steps. Once you get to step 3 that I indicated previously, there's a button up top that says Add Item. You would click that item and follow the on-screen instructions to add the license. You, in the process of doing it, if you have a trade name, your trade name has not been completed by us, you are to select your personal name. And once the process is completed, we'll add the trade name on the back along with the $25 fee.
Hi, there is I tried to do the renewal online, going through the process. I did not renew last year, but it's not allowing me to continue to renew last year and this year.
Okay, no, some of the cases are not allowed. We recommend that you submit us with an inquiry indicating how much you make, and we'll then process your last year's license as well as your current license.
Good night. I have a
Good night.
question. I know that the deadline for renewal is January 31st.
Yes.
Now, after that, when applying for the business license, previously the fee was 100. Why is it now 200?
If it's 200, then that means you didn't renew for the previous year, because it's $100 per year.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barton. And we're now going to move on to our real property tax presentation done by Ms. Orchid Bain.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Orchid Bain. I work in the billing section of property tax in our Nassau office. I'm just going to do a quick overview of property tax with you guys. Okay, so property tax is what we define as an annual tax charged on the value of property on the basis of rates determined by Parliament. It was established in 1969, and we are governed by the Real Property Tax Act of 1969 with various amendments. Let's see. Okay. Sorry, I'm going to be flipping between screens here. Mhm. Sorry? No, I prefer it. I prefer it like this, so I can flip. Yeah, I can flip. Okay. The different classifications that we go by would be owner-occupied, residential, commercial, foreign-owned vacant land, and Bahamian-owned vacant land. Persons who pay property tax include those taxes levied on the owner of the property, as defined by the Act, residential owners with properties exceeding 300,000, non-Bahamians who own vacant land, and owners of apartments, condos, shops, or homes on rent. Just 1 second. Okay. For the owner-occupied classification, the first 300,000 is exempted. The next 200,000 is at 0.625%, and the balance would be at 1%. For commercial properties, the first 500,000 is at 0.75. The next 1.5 million is at 1%, and the balance is at 1.5%. For residential properties, those valued up to 75,000 are taxed at a flat rate of $300. And once the valuation exceeds 75,000, it is charged at 0.625%. Vacant land properties, the first 7,000 is at $100 flat rate. Balance is at 2%. The breakdown of this rates based on what your property is valued at can be found on your annual tax bill, which we issue every October. Property taxes is to be paid by March 31st of every year, and 5% surcharge, this is if your property is taxable, 5% surcharge is added on January 1st of every year. So using 25 as an example, the 2025 tax bills would have gone out in October of 2024. March 31st of 2025, the 2025 taxes are due. January 1st of 2026 is when you would see a 5% surcharge on your bill if it goes unpaid. We define owner-occupied properties as the property must be used exclusively as a dwelling. This means this is where you reside, where you live. Residential properties comprise of 5 units, with 1 being used as owner-occupied, or it comprises of 4 units or less. Commercial properties include all properties in New Providence with more than 5 units, even if they are used exclusively as dwellings. And it refers to all properties owned by non-Bahamians on the Family Islands who do not qualify for owner-occupied. You only get owner-occupied on 1 property where you live, as that would be taxed as commercial. And to add on to that, Bahamians do not pay property taxes on the Family Islands. For every property that is registered with the department, you are assigned an assessment number, or you can call it a parcel ID number. That is how we find your property in the system. If you call in trying to find out if you're compliant, if your property is registered, that is most likely what we're going to ask you. Can you provide us with your assessment number? There are other ways that we can search up your property in the system, and we can go from there as well. This is also important for taxable properties where you are making payment. We need to know the assessment number so that our accounts department can apply the payment to the correct account. When it comes to payment, there are several ways that it can be done. We have 2 online platforms where you can make payment. One is payment.revenue at bahamas.gov.bs/RPT. This website only requires you to put in your name, your email, the assessment number, and the amount that you wish to pay. After that, you would have to give our accounts department just a few days to get the payment posted. Once they do, they would send you a receipt. The other platform that you can use is www.propertytax.gov.bs. This website requires a one-time registration process with the information on your bill, so assessment number, grid details, your password. We recommend that when you apply on this platform, you use a Gmail account. We have issues at this time using Hotmail, Yahoo, and MSN accounts. Once the registration process is complete, you would be sent an activation link that needs to be clicked on within the hour. And then after that, you have access to your account. From there, you can make payments to your account in real time, and you would also have access to your tax certificates, not the bill, just the tax certificates. Everyone is entitled to a 10% discount for early payment, which would be March 31st. So if the intention is to pay your property taxes by March 31st, you can actually go ahead and deduct the 10% from your payment. Our accounts department would apply the same. If you pay in full, the credit would be reflected on your account at the end once the payment is posted. Bahamians are also entitled to a senior citizens discount. You can get up to 50%. I say up to because there are situations where there may be a couple. The husband might be a pensioner and the wife may not be a pensioner. In instances like that, they would get a 25% waiver off of their annual taxes. Only applicable to Bahamians. Properties that are valued up to $1 million or over, it is not a full 50% waiver. It is 50% off of the first $1 million, so that would be a fixed amount of $3,125. Any questions? That is something that's to be applied every year. The form can be found on our website. Once you go to the Inland Revenue website and you go to Real Property Tax, the drop-down menu, we have a tab called Forms. All of our forms are located there. Yes, that you can come in and fill it out, or you can fill it out electronically and you can send it through our inbox, which is propertytaxinquiries@bahamas.gov.bs. That's inquiries with an E. You can send it in that way and the adjustment would be done. A new statement would be sent to you.
Payments we don't pay real property tax on the family islands. Can you speak about the need for the properties to have an assessment number even though there is no real property tax?
The assessment number is how we identify each individual property. Your lot may be lot 1, and someone else's lot is lot 5. Each property has a unique number. It's how we specify each one. Whether it generates taxes or not, that's just how the system works. We have to have an assessment number and a grid reference, which is like the mapping code details associated with that property. Yes.
I have a question as well. Something that we always encounter when we go out, and persons ask us questions because they see our shirts on. So, I owe a lot of money for real property tax. Do you guys have payment plans that we can use? Number one, and what does it mean when I'm told either by the bank or yourselves that I need to declare my property? What does that actually mean?
Asking you to declare the property, most likely it's because your property is not registered with the department. And in instances like that, you would need to gather your documents. So that includes things like your conveyance, customer details form, declaration form, appraisal if you have one. You would again go to our website, and I believe it's RPT declaration submission when you go to the drop-down menu, and that will redirect you to our online platform. Declarations are to be sent in. Once that takes place, you would be assigned an FID case number. And once it's completed, once the case is completed, you would be sent a tax certificate. Regarding payment plans, yes, we do offer payment plans. That would be with our Courtesy House department. Sorry, thank you. So payment plans, we only offer those with properties that are not mortgaged. If your property is mortgaged, that is something you have to work out with your bank. But yes, you would come in and you would speak with, Trevor McKenzie is the individual you want to speak with.
Situation where I purchased a property about 5 years ago, and I am being billed for that property. I'm a Bahamian, I live on the island, and I'm being billed for the property. So I need you to explain why I'm being billed, number one, and what I need to do to have that corrected.
It is possible that the property, that's true. It's possible that we may be taxing you as foreign-owned vacant land, or that we may have it in as Bahamian-owned vacant land, but the exemption is not placed on it, so it is generating taxes every year. So all you would need to do is what we call an inquiry form that can be found on our website. You can complete that and send that into our inbox. There is a page on there where one of the issues you're having, it speaks to incorrect classification, where you're telling us that it's being taxed incorrectly. You can fill that portion out, as well as filling out your personal information. And we have admin officers that monitor the box daily. So they would get that sent to our assessors, who would have that between them and data and billings. Your exemption would be put back on, taxes would be removed, and then a corrected statement would be issued to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bain. We're going over to our final presenter now, who's going to speak to you guys about value-added tax, and that is Ms. Bria Brown from the General Processing Unit.
So good afternoon. My name is Bria Brown. Once again, I'm from the General Processing Unit, and I'll be speaking on VAT, value-added tax. So a brief introduction. It was introduced in January 2015 and is a consumption tax. So the tax is paid by the customer, but collected and remitted to the department by the business itself. These are the VAT rates. So when it was first introduced, it was at a 7.5, then it increased in 2018 to 12%, and now we are currently at the 10% as of January 1st, 2022. As you can see, there will be a 5% placed on non-prepared food items as of April 1st. At this time, we are still working out what exactly it means by non-prepared food, but at this moment, things in the grocery store like vegetables, like food items, but it's still in process, and you will be notified once everything is solidified. So what VAT is charged on? VAT is charged on goods and services in the domestic economy, and that would be at the standard rate, which is our 10%, or at a zero rate for our exports. VAT is also charged on imported goods. So individuals who will charge VAT will have to meet a threshold of 100,000 to become a VAT registrant. And that is a total turnover of 100,000. So for instance, if you have multiple businesses, if only one of those businesses meets the threshold, because they're all underneath the same tin, they will all need to be charging VAT. So it's not just per business, it's per tin. If you are not a VAT registrant, you are just a tin-only certificate holder, or we sometimes just call you a business license holder. So for VAT registration, so we have mandatory VAT registration, which is once you reach that $100,000 threshold, you will have to apply for VAT within 28 days of becoming a VAT registrant, meeting that threshold. And if you are under the $100,000, you can decide to become a VAT registrant, which will make you a voluntary registrant. Please note that voluntary registrants are have the same responsibility as a mandatory VAT registrant. So here are just some taxpayer classifications. So depending on what your threshold is, it will put you in a category to determine whether you are a quarterly filer or a monthly filer. So if you are a quarterly filer, you would have to pay your VAT every 3 months or at the end of every quarter. And if you're monthly, you have to pay at the end of every month. So this is an example of what a VAT certificate would look like and the responsibilities of VAT registrants. So every VAT registrant must have your VAT certificate displayed prominently in a place where anyone who comes into your business can see it. It must also be, if it is not prominently shown, if a customer asks you to provide it, you should be able to readily provide it to them. All of your goods and services must be VAT inclusive. So when they go into like a grocery store, if you pick up an item off the shelf, you should be able to see the subtotal for that item as well as the VAT attached to that item. A VAT registrant is also responsible for issuing valid invoices and receipts. So valid invoices and receipts must state that it is a VAT invoice or receipt. It must have the company's TIN number on it, the company's name, the company's address, and it must clearly show the VAT that is being charged on that item. You must also maintain proper accounts and records. So when filing, we encourage you to upload all your records, so an input and output worksheet, so that we can clearly see it should we need to review your account, or even in the cases of if you need to do an amendment or request a refund, you must be able to present these accounts and records. You must file accurately and in a timely manner. So at the end of every quarter, you have 21 days after the end of that period to file, and you are responsible for doing so. If you do not, you will be faced with a penalty. Okay, and this is just our VAT equation. So VAT payable is the output VAT minus your input VAT, and that will give you either a VAT payable or a VAT credit. So your output VAT, which is your sales and revenue, if that is greater than your input VAT, which is your expenses, you will be in a VAT payable. And if your expenses are greater than your revenue, you will be in a VAT credit. So here are our accounting methods. So you can either account on the invoice or accrual basis or the cash basis. So if you're on the invoice basis, that means, for instance, if you're a quarterly filer, if you bought an item in January, the date on that would be January, and you must file it within the January to March period. If you are a cash basis, let's say you bought that item in January, but you didn't pay for it until April, that means that you would file that invoice in April to June, not January to March. And our reporting methods. So we have both the standard reporting method and the flat rate method. By default, VAT registrants are on the standard method, which means you charge 10% VAT on your goods and services, and when filing your VAT returns, you remit that 10% to the government. If you request to be on the flat rate, that means your goods and services would still be charged at the 10%, but when you are filing your VAT returns, you only remit a 6.5%. In order to be a VAT flat rate registrant, you must apply for it with a form that can be found on our website, and you must meet the requirements. So you can't be a port licensee, so you can't be a member of you must not have a port license, so under the Hawksbill agreement. You can't be a deferred VAT registrant. You can't provide zero-rated or exempt goods, and this is due to the fact of the return itself. It only allows you to record taxable supplies. You can't be a part of a VAT group. Your VAT filings and payments must all be up to date, and that must also be true for your business license, and your turnover must be below 400,000. So now, filing a VAT return. So you can, if you log into our website, so inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs, in the corner you will see a login button. If you press that, it will take you to the portal login page, which is vat.revenue.gov.bs/login. And you can also type this into your search bar just to come here directly. So once you log into your account with your username and password, it will bring you to your home screen. And I want to show another tab before we go on to filing a return. So in the top right-hand corner, where you would see your name, if you were to pull down the box up there, there's a section called Switch Taxpayer. So if you have multiple TINs, you can switch between them through this menu, or on your home screen, you should also be able to switch from there. So filing a return, you just go to the Returns tab and then select File a Return. And it will bring you to this screen where you can select value-added tax and the year that you wish to file the return. And then you just select the return you wish to start. It will bring you to this page, and you can either select Enter Filing or Save and Continue. And it will generate the tax return that you need to fill out. So in general, the majority of taxpayers usually fill in lines 4, lines 12, 13, 14, lines 17, 18, and 19. So lines 4 is our taxable supplies with our inclusive of VAT, and lines 12, 13, and 14 deals with our imported goods. So you'd put the imported goods minus your VAT on lines 12 and 13. And on line 14, you place the VAT. And on line 17 and 18, that will be our domestic purchases. So all of your expenses, you will place that amount on 17 or 18. And that would also be excluding your VAT. And on line 19, you would place the VAT for those items. Since we are in Freeport, another line that could be used are lines 3 and 11. Line 3 is the bonded supplies for Grand Bahamas Port Authority licensees, and the bonded inputs for Grand Bahama Port Authority licensees. So once you have filled out this return and go all the way to the bottom of the page, you just select Save and Continue once you're sure that everything is correct. And it will take you to the section to upload any documents. It is optional, but we encourage you to upload an input and output worksheet along with any import documents in case there is a need for a review of your account, because we will have to reach out to you for it, and it will make it more efficient if the documents are already there. So once you've uploaded these documents, you can just save and continue. And here are an example of the input and output worksheet. It doesn't have to look exactly like this, because some individuals use software such as QuickBooks, and it allows you to extract your worksheets, so it will look different. But as long as we can see the same fields listed on whatever document you provide, we will accept it. And the import documents, so on the left-hand side is a single administrative document. So that would show us both the landed costs and the VAT and the regular item and the regular value of all your imported goods. And it tends to have between 2 pages, but sometimes depending on the amount of goods brought in, it will have more. So you would have to present us with all pages of the single administrative document, because pages after page 1 will show us the description of items, what we would need to know. And we'd also need your receipt, and you must ensure that the status of your receipt is paid, because that will determine which period you can file this expense in. And some documents are stamped, some aren't. And in some cases, an email is sent out to say that payment was received, and we will accept that as well. So after the return has been completed, you will just be brought to this page, which is just an overview of what you just submitted. And here you could just make sure that your answers are correct. If it's not, you can go back and change them. And then you just submit the return, and it'll take you to the declaration page. You just check the box and then submit the return, and you're complete, and you're finished with filing. So the responsibilities for registrants. So VAT registrants are required to submit their VAT return and payments within 21 days at the end of that period. So at the end of the quarter, so we are in January to March, April 21st would be the deadline for that filing period. So you'd have to both submit the return and pay by that deadline. If you're paying online, it is in real time, but if you pay through a bank or wire transfer, it will take a couple days to reach our account, and that could present an issue if it reaches our account after the 21 days. For members of a large taxpayer unit, the deadline is actually 14 days, and members of this unit will be notified via letter. Okay. And tax registrants are required to file every filing period. So, for instance, let's say you didn't have any turnover for January to March. Even though you don't have a turnover for that period, you still have to file it, or else you can get a late fee. So you would file a 0 return for that period. and VAT registrants that request a cancellation. So if you wish to cancel your VAT because you're not meeting the threshold anymore, or even if it was done in error, you can request a cancellation, but in the meantime, you must continue to file, or else you will be responsible for those late penalties that you receive. So another thing I want to go over is amending a return. So let's say you just filed that return and you realize that you made an error. So to fix that error, you can go to your My Tax tab and select Tax Accounts. And it will show you a list of all of your returns that you have submitted. You can filter out via value-added tax, so you can only see your VAT, and select the period that you wish to amend. It will bring you to this screen, and you must go over to the section that says correct, amend this tax return, and then you just select either amend filing or save and continue. It will generate the return that you initially submitted, and you can just change whatever area that was in error. So do not completely wipe the return if some areas are correct, because we just need you to change the error. And then you just select save and continue. You will then be prompted to give the reason for this amendment, and depending on what you select, the next slide would be an empty box where you could give an in-depth explanation of what occurred. This will also be the time where you could upload your documents. So what I showed you earlier, the input and output worksheets and the import documents, those documents are necessary to amend the return. So if you don't provide it, once the officer gets to your case, they will now have to reach out to you for those documents, and it could delay your amendment. So it's best just to put it in one time so that your amendment can get done as quickly as possible. Once you've uploaded those documents, you just save and continue, and it'll give you an overview of what you filled out, and you can just make sure it's correct, then submit the return. And then once again, you'll have to check the declaration and then submit the return. I just want to go over a few more of these tabs that we have at the top. So in the inbox tab, if you just go to inbox, you can see every inquiry that you have submitted and any correspondence between you and a officer. You can also submit an E&Q via this method. For instance, an amendment can only be done within a year of your initial filing. So if you realize you have an error from, let's say, 2 years ago, you can also use the inbox tab to create an inquiry and submit a manual return amendment that way. And also in the My Tax tab, you can also see make a payment and payment history. So with make a payment, that way, if you don't initially pay when you first file your return, you can come here and pay at a later date. And your payment history, you can print your statements via that tab. And then finally, the services tab. So let's say you aren't a VAT registrant yet and you wish to become a VAT registrant. You can go to the register new tax type and select that and follow the steps, and that will register you for VAT. In this tab, you can also request a refund. So let's say you were in a credit position and you want that credit amount to be either dispersed back to you or transferred to another period to clear debt. You would have to go and request a refund because it won't automatically go and clear that debt that you have. You can also request a tax compliance certificate through this menu. And finally, our website. If you have any questions on value-added tax, you can come to our website, and under the value-added tax, you can find legal, and it will give you access to these guides and acts which can explain things in depth. In particularly under the general VAT guides, the second to last form, It actually breaks down each line of the VAT return, explaining exactly what items goes on each line. So it's very helpful when filling out your return. And next we have forms. So earlier I stated about the flat rate. There's also if you want to switch from monthly to quarterly or quarterly to monthly, all those forms can be found here. They can mainly be found in 2015. And we also have a how-to VAT. So there are videos on how to file your VAT in other areas that you might need. And finally, we have our wiring information. So if you decide to wire your funds for your VAT or your business license, you have to ensure that you select the correct wiring information, because if you, let's say you need to wire money to the VAT account, but you send it to BL, that could cause a discrepancy with your account, which they will now have to go and look for. So please ensure that you're sending it to the correct account. And you can find this for both VAT, business license, and real property. Questions?
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Brown. I think your presentation was so good that they didn't have any questions for you. Oh, I think we got a little tug on that. All right, thank you everybody for attending tonight. We want to thank our presenters, Ms. Charlene Barton, Ms. Orchid Bain, Ms. Bria Brown for being here tonight. Just a few basic reminders that we want to remind you guys about. With regards to business license, all persons generating a turnover must have a business license. And turnover is, we all know what turnover is. You know, you've heard it a lot being said by Ms. Barton. Turnover is not profit. It is everything before any deduction is made. So before you pay your staff, before you make reservations, before you buy stock, all of that is considered turnover, everything that you invest. We also want you guys to be honest with us. When you give us your turnover, it does not make sense that Bamboo Shack tells us that they would have made $12,000 in 2024 when we know what you would have made. That is going to prompt us to do further investigation into your account, into your company. So we want you to be honest. We like to encourage persons to be honest when they're giving us their turnover. Another point, all licenses under the same TIN must be renewed at the same time. So if you have 5 licenses under one TIN, you must renew all of them at the same time. If those 5 licenses, and this has been popular opinion, if one of them make their turnover is 80,000, and the other 4 are 20,000 each, persons say that the threshold to register for VAT is 100,000. That is not the case. We take all of those licenses, all of those businesses, and we add them together, thus making you a VAT registrant. So the business is not VAT registered, the person is, the TIN, which is your tax identification number. Another thing with regard to the TCC came about to let persons know and let us know that you are compliant with all government funds and taxes, all fees and taxes, excuse me. When you apply for a TCC, that tells us that you are compliant with business license, VAT, real property tax, NIB, road traffic, immigration, Bahamas Customs, etc. So it is important that when you apply for those, if you're getting a government contract or any contract at all, you want to ensure that you are in proper compliance with all of those agencies. Even if you owe us a big fee, as long as you are on a payment plan and you're up to date with your payment plan, you will receive the TCC. Also a reminder, everything that we said here is backed up by acts, and all the information can be found on our website, inlandrevenue.finance.gov.bs. Please familiarize yourself with it. Everything that we have said, everything that we will say, that we have said in the past is on that website, and it is your Inland Revenue encyclopedia. We're also very active on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube, everything. We pride ourselves in trying to give everybody a reason to know how to do something, know about something, or know what's coming. So please familiarize yourself with that as well. If you go to our YouTube page, you'll see an account of this town hall and every town hall that we have done before. In the event that you may have missed something or you don't remember something, you can go right back and watch it or even see yourselves. So once again, we want to thank you guys for being so hospitable to us in 8 Mile Rock. Thank you to Ms. Fernanda and the team for inviting us down. Thank you to our good team here from Nassau for coming on down and giving you guys beautiful instructions and presentations. We thank you for being here, and have a good night.